Hi there. And today we are very honored to have back with us Olle Johansson. Olle is associate professor at retired from the Karolinska Medical University in Stockholm, Sweden, and he's a world-leading authority on EMF radiation health impacts. And we had the pleasure of having him join us for a more lengthy presentation in general on this topic. And I'll be including a link in the comments below. But today we're inviting Olle. First of all, welcome. Thank you for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you very much.
And we'll just start out with if you have any words you'd like to share, given your expertise and your experience with parents who have children heading back to public school. And I know you're in Sweden and things are a little different there than they are in the US. So this is primarily for the benefit of the US parents and who may not be totally aware of all the conditions awaiting them in public school. So particularly about having them be exposed to wireless technology inside the classroom and outside, maybe from cell towers, antennas. Some schools have even had, I understand, 5G 60 gigahertz chips inserted, I believe, in the routers, the access points in the classrooms. Not really clear on where they are. I just understand that there are there with the millimeter waves. We just pump up the exposure and the dangers to the children that much more where they are there. So any words of wisdom for the parents as well as school board members, and they're in a position to maybe, make some changes if, that they're able to. So I'll let you have the floor and I'll chime in.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, well, I think I will answer your questions with a short story. Some months ago, I traveled one of the Stockholm commuter trains, and wherever I go in the world, I always take the chance to put some mental seeds into the brain of others. And I saw this 60-year-aged, very posh lady, and she was using her smartphone. And since no one knows who I am, I leant forward and said, "Hey, do you know that the World Health Organization in Geneva in Switzerland has cancer classified the radiation from your smartphone and cell phone?" And she got very angry with me, and told me to mind my own business, and I didn't know what I was talking about, and so on. And she actually yelled at me in the train compartment. But I said, wait. I mean, you have a smartphone. Couldn't you please, just for my sake, Google WHO, brain tumor, and cell phone radiation? And she did, and went silent for 2-3 minutes. And then slowly she looked up at me and said with blushing cheeks, I would say, "I'm very, very sorry," she said. "You are completely right. But now I get angry again," she said, "but not at you, but at the Swedish government and parliament and health authorities. Why have they not informed me? You see, I am a parent and nowadays also a grandparent. And just recently I bought a new smartphone for my grandchild who is 12 years of age. And now I really regret it." So that kind of puts immediately focus on what's going on, partly behind the curtains and behind the scene, but partly also in front of it. And many parents are not aware of that the World Health Organization has cancer classified this radiation in 2011, so that's a long time ago, and its association to brain tumors. And 10 years before that, the so-called power frequent magnetic fields and its association to childhood leukemia. And when I, for instance, in Sweden, give lectures and tell parents, I can tell you that not even parents from the telecom industry likes this. They get really upset. And maybe this is one of several reasons why countries such as the Solomon Islands, Uganda, Nigeria in Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, and above all, China has put strong bans on the usage of cell phones, tablets, and laptops in schools. And there is a very big organization. I know the United States was one of the first to join it, and it's called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's shortened OECD. And they came forward recently with a very big report clearly showing that the more screen time in school, the less good grades in school. So the message I would say to school board members and also to parents is to do their own homework, sit down and start reading, thinking, and coming up with the optimal solution for the pupils and students. And maybe that would mean to kind of take a few steps backwards, as many countries already have done. France, for instance, in Europe, also have strong bans on these gadgets in schools.
Would you like to share what you're seeing there in Sweden with the
Well,
atmosphere? You have an idea what's happening here in the US.
well,
And
I have an idea, yes.
yeah,
And, I regularly go to different discussion clubs, and in one of them there is a fantastic American man, and he always kind of concludes that he would like to see the Swedish countermeasures regarding coronavirus and COVID-19 implemented all over the world, including in his own home country, the United States of America. And here, if you, for instance, walk around in Stockholm, I think you would feel it's completely normal. You don't see any face masks on children in school. There is no distancing. The teachers are not clad in plastic gloves or anything like that, And you are allowed to take contact with kids if they are outdoors, etc. There are no fences, nothing like this, And if you walk around in society, within a few minutes, you would meet children just up close, within a feet from yourself. So it is a huge difference indeed. And hopefully, Sweden is making a good compromise out of the situation. And as you probably know, the death statistics in Sweden has not been this low since 1977, which was an all-time low for a long time for various reasons. So today, Swedes are feeling very well, and they are not dying, particularly many of them.
but there's so much fear and so much collateral damage as a result of this, with the job losses, suicides from all the fear, the isolation. With our seniors, have a dear friend who's 94, and we haven't been allowed to see her since February. They
Yeah.
want I'm told by the family to not minimize this with her. They want to protect her, and we don't want any harm to come to her. Of course, we love her, but she's starting to hear voices like she does when she's feeling alone and rejected. And so she's just within her little apartment for 4 or 5 months now. And
Yeah, yeah.
she needs socialization. She needs sunshine. But
And
that's what's sad.
yeah, and I'm definitely a senior as well. I haven't been indoors a single day since the end of December, and I'm out often 2, 3, even 4 times a day. And for instance, today I felt a little bit alone, so I went for a walk, and soon I found myself within a foot from a newly born and the baby's parents, and no one was screaming or running away or anything like that. It's just very natural. And of course, I respect if I see people that for various reasons wants to keep distance. That's perfectly all right. But it's a very rare occasion, actually. And as I say, hopefully this will come out as a good compromise for Sweden. And of course, we will have the answer in the future within maybe a year or 2.
Right, that I'm glad you shared that. That was wonderful, and I have not worn a mask yet. I refuse to because I have a health condition. I'm healthy, and I don't wish to restrict my oxygen or breathing in CO2 or what all the toxins or become hypoxia, whatever, all those different conditions that can come out. There have been a lot of people who have passed out, especially outside while exercising, sports people, that it's just very restrictive. And hopefully, with these messages that people will do, like you say, their own research to make up their own mind, and I'm I get outside every day as well, and the more we walk in the park, we see a lot of people, most everyone without a mask, especially outside. But I'll even hold up a palm high five, yay, no mask, and I know, really, and they're out there with their dogs, and we're getting closer than 6 feet, meeting new people, and it's wonderful. And yesterday we were together with our next door neighbor, had his seventh birthday, and she came up to my husband behind him and just spontaneously was hugging. She was on the floor and she was hugging his legs, and it was just so natural and so spontaneous. And that's the way it should be. We're social animals. We need to be together. And I have a meme that I saw that the masks are not so much about protection, but about subjugation. And if this is a virus, the particles are so small that to wear a mask is kind of equivalent to trying to stop mosquitoes with chain link fencing. It's just not there. And if it really made a difference, they wouldn't just say any old face covering will do. It can be a bandana, it can be an N95, it can be a surgical mask, and they all have different qualities, as I'm sure you know, Oli, to protect. I mean, the doctors wear surgical masks in the operations to keep, any droplets from them going into open wounds. I mean, that makes sense. And they change them out frequently. So,
But
hopefully.
yeah, a very important thing you come back to several times is that parents as well as member of the school boards here, they should definitely read and think and contemplate what's best for each school situation. And a very important thing with any schooling is, of course, socialization, and to kind of hinder pupils and students to socialize will not pay off to the best in the future. So please, I tell everyone to do their own homework and read. And I know you will give them a number of different links that they could read about health effects, etc. So it's really up to them to decide how they want it to be.
Absolutely, and another good point that the parents are the ultimate decision makers for the care of their children. And I was speaking part of this project. I had occasion to speak with a mother from Australia. She contacted me. She was very concerned when she discovered RFID chips. Tags being requested by her school to have inserted in her child's uniform, as well as her backpack. And she was just appalled. They're calling them tagalogs.
Yeah,
Tagalogs. And I guess the purpose of this, they say, is, well, if your child loses an object, they can track it and know where to retrieve it. It's a good thing. And this mother said, I don't like the radiation aspects of it, and I don't like taking away the responsibility from my child to keep track of her own jacket, her own backpack. If she just thinks, oh, well, I can just throw it wherever, it'll make its way to where my mom can pick it up later. She didn't like
yeah.
that aspect as well. So, and she shared with me that in her school in Australia, that the parents cannot come into the school and they have to queue up in front of the school, one car in back of the other, when it's time to pick up their children. And the children are queued up inside the school 6 feet behind the other, and they are not to talk with anyone. Her daughter got severely reprimanded for daring to speak to her best friend, who was all masked and 6 feet behind her, and she just said something to her. She immediately got scolded. And
Oh,
so it's that kind of situation. Some areas are more down than others. And Ole, you probably know, we have a mutual friend and colleague from South Africa, Cape Town, and she
yeah.
shared with us her granddaughter. She wanted me to use her name and the photo. We'll be including that in this project. But her first day back to school, Sasha, I believe she's 10, and she was so looking forward to getting back to school to be with her friends, because she has been all in lockdown since February. They're really strict there in her community. And she said Sasha couldn't wait to get back. She wanted to hug her teacher. Of course, that's forbidden. And there, she'd had a
Okay.
picture of all the kids socially distanced with the masks, with their heads down, looking very sad. And you could see the bottle of hand sanitizer and a pile of fresh masks ready to go. And it didn't look like any country I recognize.
Oh,
And
no.
it was just so sad, but it was a social statement. And perhaps, Ole, what do you think? Do you think it's just going to take, like with all other things that we've dealt with, from the tobacco industry, back when the doctors used to say, it's fine. I mean, I'm smoking my cigarette. There's no harm at all. It took, what, 9 years or so to work with the tobacco industry and going to the Supreme Court or whatever to get that all lifted. To asbestos, everything else that was DDT, spraying for mosquitoes or what are inside your home, for Pete's
Yeah,
sakes,
yeah,
that was not, that was at once, that was considered fine. Do you think
yeah,
with all of this, it's just going to take a little more time for people to put all the pieces together to realize what it is? I'm so concerned about that. It seems like they're stalling so they can get the so-called COVID vaccine put together without safety testing. They're operating their operation warp speed to get that to, and that they will supposedly, according to Bill Gates, they will be forced upon every individual on the planet. So, and that,
yeah. I would doubt anyone would allow such a forceful action here in Sweden. So one message to your American parents and colleagues, if they are not happy, you can come to Sweden and live here, because we have a lot of room. It's very, very many square kilometers, completely empty here. So maybe that would be a kind of a mental refugee area in the world. So,
that
and
sounds
I hope,
lovely.
yeah, and I hope that what you tell me about this vaccine and so on will be dealt with in an adult way. Unfortunately, I think you are completely right, and let's stop in between with the health effects, the adverse health effects of electromagnetic fields. Some few years ago, together with a Norwegian colleague, I wrote a commentary where we said that the war is actually already over. It will just take a few years to be forced to come back to adult senses in this area. And as you probably know, during these following years, 6 cancer cases have been brought through the whole legal system in Italy, and including the Supreme Court, and all of them were then judged in favor of that. Yes, the cell phone had caused a brain tumor in these patients. And so maybe we will soon see kind of a withdrawal and a change, and it may for some be dramatic, but practically it will probably not mean very much. The telecom industry is already dealing with the possibility of using fiber optics instead of wireless, shielded and wired systems that will not expose neither children nor adults to electromagnetic fields in this excess as we're talking about now. So maybe things will change, and let's hope for the better.
Absolutely. And that is most encouraging to hear that. I had not heard it put exactly in that way. And I've been following actually our Wired, I'm co-founder of Wired Schools Group. We're almost 800 members strong, mostly of kindred spirit parents who are very well and concerned with what's happening in schools.
In Sweden, we have had the first school, and the name of it's Spira-skolan in Swedish, and it's situated in Täby, which is just north of Stockholm city center, and they have shielded their Wi-Fi routers, and also many of the staff members, as well as the parents and the pupils, they have bought cases for their cell phones, and there is only, to the best of my knowledge, one company in the world, and it's actually a Swedish company. It's called Radiation Protection of Sweden, and if you want to search it online, it's RP of Sweden as one word .com, and you can order online shields for Wi-Fi routers, etc., etc. And I hear now that more schools in Sweden are contemplating to reduce the radiation, because these cases and shields, they will reduce the radiation in the order of somewhere between 70 to 99%. So it's a dramatic reduction, and just to be trying to do the best, for the staff as well as for the students, and to lower the radiation as much as possible. And all the gadgets, they work beautifully as well, and so there's no interference with functionality, but the levels of reduction is quite dramatic.
That's impressive, and we've had conversations before that there's a vast difference between a safe school and a safer school,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've always advocate. As like Dr. Mallory, Erica Mallory Blythe has said, that she believes that turning it down when not in use is good in concept, but in her opinion, it's analogous with handing a child a low tar cigarette.
Yeah, yeah.
However, before and it relies on teachers to turn it down. It's not real consistent, but what you suggest sounds very impressive. I love hearing that, and I'm going to include a link below, as well as to encourage schools throughout the world, certainly in the US, to look into, if you don't feel that wiring the school, which is ideal, if that is not a possibility, viable option for you, that please consider looking into this option to
Yeah,
shield.
yeah.
That would be huge. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. So, Ole, thank you so much for all you've contributed. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with everyone today?
Well, not any more thoughts. I think we have covered all the ground we need.
Okay.
And I just wish every school board member and every parent the very best of good luck, because as you said in the beginning, we all love the children and grandchildren, and we want to do the very, very best for them. So now it's up to us to prove this point correct.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, and for all you are and do, and for our children. I have a meme that says, thank you for I'm not a science experiment, and we want our children to know that we did the very best for them, that we didn't sit by and pretend we didn't realize what was going on when we had a chance to make a difference, that we stood up. We were a role model for our children. We're doing what's right. We're doing what we believe is best in sharing the truth for our children. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
what I always have as a personal test, and you can allow all the listeners and viewers here to use that test every evening when I brush my teeth. If I can meet the gaze of my eyes in the bathroom mirror without blushing, then it's fine. If I have to look away and start all over again, then I need to redo whatever I redone before, So
Oh,
that's a
that's
good test.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, and you're so
And it's
right.
simple, you really test your own moral and ethical standard
Yeah.
just by looking yourself into your own eyes. And if you have to look away, then you know that I have to go up much early the next morning and remake and redo what I did wrong the previous day.
That is such an excellent point, and that we can close our eyes and allow slumber, peaceful slumber, to take over without any guilt. Know that we did our very, very best, and tomorrow we're going to do it again. And I have another saying, I believe it's attributed to the late Maya Angelou, essentially that when we know better, we do better. And I believe there's not one among us who doesn't reflect on things in our past. We think, I could have done better, but I didn't know better at the time, but I do
No,
now.
yeah,
So that's all anyone can ask and can
yeah,
do. So hopefully we've inspired and given you all ideas more that you can do, and we're here for you. So Ole, thank you again. It's such
thank
a
you very much.
pleasure. I appreciate your time, and bye for now.